There goes the orange pen. Well, welcome back. The Commission of Inquiry into allegations of state capture is set to reconvene this morning in Parktown, Johannesburg. Former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas is expected to take the stand today. Jonas alleged that in 2015, the Gupta family offered him an initial 600,000 rand cash payment and then 600 million rand to be given later if he accepted the job of finance minister. Now, he claimed that he was expected to replace Nhlanhla Nene, who was fired in December of 2015 by former President Jacob Zuma. And to talk to us about this somewhat more, and also on what to expect from evidence that will be presented by Mcebisi Jonas today, we're joined via Skype by Sam Soul, who's managing partner at the amaBhungane Center for Investigative Journalism. Sam, good morning and welcome to Morning Live.
Morning, Sakina. Nice to talk to you.
So a very important day, one would imagine, at the State Capture Commission. And that's because, of course, former Deputy Finance Minister Mcebisi Jonas is expected to take the stand. And he, of course, was one of the first people to really blow the lid of the failure of the executive, as Advocate Thuli Madonsela also puts it in her report, to actually intervene timeously in when these allegations were made. But it goes back to 2010 already, where Julius Malema was making allegations that Fikile Mbalula had been offered his ministerial position, or at least informed about it, by the Guptas. So let's just go back there and just outline how we came to this point where Jonas eventually spilled the beans.
Look, yeah, there's a lot of background. I mean, I remember the Sunday Times back in around 2010. It wasn't only Julius Malema writing about ministers and officials and so on being summoned to Saxonwold and given instructions and being told what to do. And of course, it was all denied then. Kusatu at that stage, led by Nhlanhla Nene, got upset and demanded some kind of inquiry, met with the Guptas, but it was all kind of hushed over. Then we had the Waterkloof landing outrage and so on. So it wasn't as if the signs were not there. But the problem was the executive and the ruling party, didn't discover its backbone until very much too late in the day. It was clear, I think, to everybody in the party that the Guptas had the support of President Zuma, and nobody was willing to stand up to that, except for a few individuals. So you had Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, who I think evidence will emerge refused to take or resisted taking certain decisions. He was removed in favor of Nhlanhla Nene. And then again, I think we'll hear that Mr. Nene resisted taking certain decisions that the president wanted taken. And so there was the decision to remove him. And in the run-up to that, we had this meeting between Mr. Jonas and the Guptas at Saxonwold, which had been set up by President Zuma's son, as well as Nhlanhla Nene, who had a long history of being a fixer in the arms deal. And then we had a meeting. Now, obviously, the details of that meeting are disputed. I think AJ Gupta maintains that he wasn't in the country. But I think, especially at that stage when they were less well known, a lot of people confused the Gupta brothers. Some of them look more similar to others. So it's going to be very interesting to hear Mr. Jonas's full testimony about what happened on that day.
Sam, how crucial is Mcebisi Jonas's testimony in the broader state capture inquiry?
Look, I think it may be perceived as crucial, but I think that would be a mistake. And in fact, I'm possibly a bit worried and a bit critical of the fact that he's been called already at this stage. I think we're talking about the introduction given by the evidence leader painted quite a good picture. We're talking about a huge architecture of processes that are informal, but many maybe formal, but many are informal. And I think it might have been better to sketch more of that background for the judge before presenting one of your star witnesses, because some of these things are so incredible as to be hard to believe. What happened to our country, as many people have said, wouldn't have been believed if it had been written in a novel. And yet the facts are there. I think it might have been good to present the judge with, in a sense, more of the background context, more of the other incidents before you had a key witness like Mr. Jonas. But we'll have to see. Mr. Jonas, I think, is going to be a very, very impressive witness. I've heard him speak. I haven't heard him speak about this. So we'll just have to see how it goes, and then obviously the question of cross-examination is going to arise.
As you indicated earlier, some of what he has already testified to before the former public protector, etc., and also put out in the public domain has already been disputed. So is there an onus? Is it very important, for example, that he today comes up with a little more detail regarding what happened there? And should he fail to do so, what would that mean?
It might be important, but I think some of the details have already been corroborated. In terms of the initial setup meetings with Mr. Nhlanhla and Duduzane Zuma. Nobody has denied that a meeting happened at Saxonwold. It's the content and purpose of that meeting and exactly who was there. That's somewhat under dispute, and I don't think that is going to be settled now. Mr. Jonas, is going to tell that story perhaps in a little bit more detail. But again, this is where the extent to which the Commission has kind of dug into this properly is going to be important, because if they've done their investigation, there will be cell phone trails, conversations, locations, etc., that would back up one version or another. There'll be proper records in terms of people's being present in the country, the flight, the flights of the Gupta planes, etc. But whether or not they've had the chance to do that investigation remains to be seen.
And of course, that will be very interesting as well. And we're going to take a short break. When we come back, I will actually continue this conversation with Sam Soul. And we're looking at Mcebisi Jonas, who is expected to appear before the state capture inquiry today.